everyone. Thanks for joining me. Tiki and I are here to talk to you about what I've been up to book-wise. How are all of you doing? It's June 22nd maybe? Almost at the end of June now, and here in the southwestern Pennsylvania area we've been under a heat dome. Yeah, it's been really hot. And humid. I just wanted to update you on what I've been getting into reading wise. I went to a library sale. The library sale that my library holds, like an annual sale at the Carnegie Library, but and I took some video of the books that I got. I only got like 5. They didn't have nearly the amount of classics that that they had last year, so it was a bit of a disappointment, but maybe I'll add that video to next time or something. Yeah, but let me tell you what I've been getting into. So I will move this where my books are. All right, what do I want to start off with? A book that I don't have anymore. I had to return it to the library, but that is Deborah Levy's Swimming Home. It's a book that I heard about from Benjamin at Benjamin Journal, YouTube channel, and I don't like all of Deborah Levy's fiction, but like The Man That Saw Everything, it just didn't click with me. But as I had mentioned in my other video, Swimming Home remained gently quirky. So, I mean, you don't read Deborah Levy for plot, right? She's not that kind of writer. She's a character writer. And even in her autobiographical books like Real Estate and so on, like, she's just so good at describing things around her and her own state of being. And in her fiction, it's the same way with the characters and the dialogue. And it's so like smart and this is a book about 2 couples that are staying at is it an Italian villa? I don't think it's French, but I don't remember now. Anyway, a really nice villa, and one of the couple that's the most highlighted in this book is Isabel and Joseph. Joseph is like some writer or poet that is well known in lectures and things, and thinks a lot of himself. And they have like a younger daughter, like 14-year-old, don't remember her name. And they meet another character in the book named Kitty, whose last name I also don't remember. But they meet her because she's floating in a pool at the villa, and they actually think might be dead, but she's naked because she's naked all the time. She likes to be naked. What I think is so funny about the way that Deborah Levy has written this character is that nobody really thinks that's appealing in the book. They just think it's annoying. And I just think that's so fun. Kitty was at a psychiatric hospital, so she's got some issues, and people start to understand that as time goes on, and Joseph is asked to read one of her poems, and yeah, it's just a quirky, sad, funny, poignant story, and it's because of the setting especially, I think it's just a really nice summer read. I highly recommend. And then I read another book that I'll get to in a moment. But what I'm reading now is and I mentioned, I think in the last video, is the Dupe Avocado. I'm rereading this, something I hardly ever do. This is by Elaine Dundy, and NYRB has republished this book. And when was it originally written? Let me see if I can find that out. 1958. Sally J. Gorse is the main character in this book. And I think the reason NYRB chose to republish this is that, having been written in 1958, Elaine Dundy has created a character that is so unique in that here she is, she's a American coming over to Paris because her uncle gives her just enough money to go to Paris, but not a whole lot. So she's on a budget. And she runs into other people from her college, some college friends, and Larry, I think the guy's name is, and she's done a little bit of acting. She's very real, and she's okay with expressing herself and her views. She's sometimes like dressed the wrong way in the daytime because her laundry is at the laundry, and so she has to wear an evening dress in the daytime. But she's very smart and quippy, and the dialogue is that way. And I just like the way that she stands up for herself, and she doesn't have to be perfect to walk out the door. She tries to put outfits together. She has decided that she likes this guy, Larry, who's giving her parts in a play. And when the story opens, she's hooked up with this Italian ne'er-do-well guy who's got a wife and a mistress. And I don't know, it's just something about the uniqueness of this book being written in 1958 and Sally J being such a unique individual that I really like about this book. So I highly recommend this one. And it doesn't feel like I'm rereading it and like I'm recognizing everything. So that's really been enjoyable. And the other book I'm reading, I picked up this one, which I just bought at a used book barn when I was in upstate New York a couple months ago. Women in Love. I didn't know that this is considered one of D.H. Lawrence's like best novels. It was written in 1920, I think. Yep, 1920. I also didn't know that this is like a second in a loose 2-book series. The first book being The Rainbow. It says, Women in Love continues the story of Ursula and Gudrun Brangwyn, begun in The Rainbow. The Brangwyn sisters are now teachers in Beldover, a small town dominated by the great colliery that seems to express the full dehumanizing agony or ugliness of industrialization. Here, Ursula falls in love with Birkin, I think that's Rupert Birkin, in some ways a self-portrait of Lawrence, while Gudrun has a tragic and demoniac affair with Gerald, son of the colliery owner. This is where the story is moving to right now. Beginning this book was like jumping on an already moving train, because I guess it presumes you know these characters, and he doesn't do a lot of explaining about them, but he kind of does. So I was able to get on board, but it took a while. What I most notice about this book, though, is, as I had read in a review of it somewhere online, that it is distinctly modernist. This story, this writing, has the characters showing up in different rooms, different places, in different gatherings, and there are like existential conversations between the two men, between Birkin and Gerald, because they end up on a train together or something, and then between the two women because they're hanging out on the shore together or something, and they're talking about like the meaning of life and why we're here and what does it mean, what is there about life other than like your job, what is our meaning, why do we even exist. So there's a lot of that in here, which is interesting and unlike a lot of books that I've read from the 1920s, from this time. I picked up on that like vibe right away, like this is different. And then I read that it's modernist, so that made more sense. In this particular scene called In the Train, Birkin and Gerald are on a train journey together, and they end up, I think it's Birkin, hangs out with some people in an apartment when he goes to London, and Gerald joins him. And these are like freewheeling, free society artist, bohemian people. So that was really cool to read. I really liked that whole scene. But Gerald said, "Isn't it funny what they do put in newspapers? Here are two leaders." He held out his Daily Telegraph, full of the ordinary newspaper cant. He scanned the columns. And then there's this little, I don't know what you call it, essay almost, appearing with the leaders and saying there must arise a man who will give new values to things, give us new truths, a new attitude to life, or else we shall be a crumbling nothingness in a few years, a country in ruin. I suppose that's a bit of newspaper cant as well. It sounds as if the man meant it, and quite generally, said Gerald. And do you think it's true? Do you think we really want a new gospel? Asked Gerald. Birkin shrugged. I think the people who say they want a new religion are the last to accept anything new. They want novelty, right enough. But to stare straight at this life that we've brought upon ourselves and reject it, absolutely smash up the old idols of themselves, that they'll never do. You've got very badly to want to get rid of the old before anything new will appear, even in the self. And then he goes on to say, like, Gerald says, like, do you really think that we want to just bust our complete being, our complete self up? It's that kind of vibe, and I'm really liking it. And the profound observation that D.H. Lawrence is able to express when it's either Gudrun or her sister are seeing themselves become electrified when they see one of those two men, that they feel like, wow, like what's happening to me when I see Gerald. The way that he's able to write those inner expressions without it being overdone does not feel overdone to me. It's just really great, unique writing. And I'm so happy to be reading a D.H. Lawrence. Somebody who was not even on my list of like classic authors I wanted to get to this year. I don't think so. I don't think it was on my list. So that's really fun. Okay, from the library, I just want to talk about a couple new releases that I picked up. One is a biography, the other is a memoir. But I've already dipped into this, and I'm really liking the way this is written. This is called The Editor, How Publishing Legend Judith Jones Shaped Culture in America. Judith Jones started off in 1949 at Doubleday's Paris office. And a year later, Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl, became a bestseller, and she was the editor on that. It was the start of her career. And then she moved to, during her more than 50 years as an editor at Alfred A. Knopf, she championed the careers of Sylvia Plath, Ann Tyler, and John Updike. What? Have you ever heard of this woman, Judith Jones? That's maybe because she got more connected to cookbook authors, and mainly Julia Child. So she gets lost as one of like the great editors in the last 50, 70 years because she gets connected with cookbooks, even though she was an author. I mean, she was an editor of those famous authors I just mentioned. And I really like the way this is written. So Sarah Franklin, did I say Frank? It's Franklin. This is cutting it off. But Sarah Franklin is a writer, teacher, and oral historian. So I really like the writing in this so far. I just started it though. And then this is a memoir called 1974. And when I saw the cover, I was like, okay, I think I might need to get this out of the library. It's a new release by Francine Prose, A Personal History. And it's a political memoir. She's in San Francisco at the time, in the 70s, at the time of a lot of political upheaval. This is the time of the Pentagon Papers, the Vietnam War, and sexual liberation, the women's movement, and the Patty Hearst kidnapping, and the Watergate hearings. So I don't know if I'll get to this, but so far, like, I just dipped in the first couple pages and I really liked it. So that's one. And then I reserved this because I read about it, Godwin by Joseph O'Neill. He's the author of Netherland, which won the PEN Faulkner Award because it's set in Pittsburgh, or at least one of the main characters is in Pittsburgh at the time. But it says Mark Wolf, a brilliant if self-thwarting technical writer, lives in Pittsburgh with his wife Sushila and their toddler daughter. His half-brother Jeff, born and raised in the UK, is a desperate young soccer agent. He pulls Mark across the ocean into a scheme to track down an elusive prospect known only as Godwin, an African teenager Jeff believes could be the next Lionel Messi. So we'll see. Then I got Morgan Talty's new book, Fire Exit. I don't know if he's written a novel before, but his short story collection, which was a debut for him, Night of the Living Rez, was one of, if not the best short story collection I've ever read. And I say that because every story to me held its own weight, and I was so involved in Night of the Living Rez. So when I saw that he had a novel coming out, I just ordered it from the library, and here it is. Tommy Orange is blurbed as saying, utterly consuming. And from the porch of his home, Charles Lamazoué has watched the life he might have had unfold across the river on Maine's Penobscot Reservation. That's the reservation that Morgan Talty is a citizen of. He caught brief moments of his neighbor Elizabeth's life, from the day she came home from the hospital to her early 20s. But there's something deeper and more dangerous than the river that divides him from her and the rest of the tribal community. I'm not going to read anymore because it starts to reveal things. This is an unforgettable story of family, legacy, bloodlines, culture, and inheritance. I'll let you know. I will dip into this soon. Okay, D.H. Lawrence, The Dupe Avocado. The other one I wanted to mention, the other book I finished recently, is Claudia Pinheiro's A Little Luck. And I don't recall her first book. These are books that have been translated, and I don't recall the author, the translator, so I'll put the translator down here. But I read that first book of hers, and I will look it up on my iPad while I'm talking. And then I started this second book because I loved the first one so much. And it was very popular, that first translated book, when it came out last year. Pinheiro. Elena knows. And when I was reading A Little Luck, I felt like she's holding, like, you know the story of the main character, whose name I don't recall. She's in Boston. Her partner, Robert, has just died. He was sick and he died. She might be in her 50s, and she's from Argentina, but she can't go back. That's what you know, because of something that happened, but you're never told what. And Robert, before he died, they work at a school, and he had set in motion a circumstance where she needed to go back to Argentina. And in fact, to the town that she left, because there's another school there and she has to interview people for one reason or another. And you know that she doesn't want to go back to the country, the town, the school, but you don't know why. And I got so impatient. But Claudia Pinheiro writes in a very distinct way and at a pace that you either hop on board or you don't. And that was true of Elena Knows. You really needed to get into the cadence of the story there too, which was slow, but there were reasons for it. And A Little Luck, I really enjoyed. I had to be patient, take my time, enjoy the process, and it really pays off. A Little Luck and Elena Knows. I probably liked Elena Knows better just because it was the first one. I don't know, but it's brilliant. You have to just ride along with her and the pace of her writing. It's really beautiful. And what else? I already mentioned I was reading that. Oh yeah, one more. Okay, after I finished D.H. Lawrence, I knew I wanted to read another E.M. Forster, because like a year and a half ago I was in a Bookstagram E.M. Forster read along, and we read Where Angels Fear to Tread, which was amazing. I loved that story. I love the writing. And I read Howard's End. And I think, yeah, Where Angels Fear to Tread was E.M. Forster's first novel. And Howard's End was written in 1910. Where Angels Fear to Tread was published in 1905. And A Room with a View was 1908, so before Howard's End. And I was just in the mood to get back into that beautiful, beautiful writing and dialogue. Wonderful combination. And I tend to like writers that are in the beginning of the 20th century. So in the beginning of like 1910s, 1920s. I just have really enjoyed the writing that I've written in that time period. So there's that. Oh, what's this about? A Room with a View. A charming tale of the battle between bourgeois representation and radical romanticism. His third novel has long been the most popular of his early works. A young girl, Lucy Honeychurch, and her chaperone, products of proper Edwardian England, visit a tempestuous, passionate Italy. Their room with a view allows them to look into a world far different from their own. And you know Lucy's going to meet someone when she's in Italy, right? So we'll see what happens. Yeah, that's what I'm up to. Please let me know what you're up to. There's a couple people that are doing the, what's it called? The mid-year freakout tag, which is just talking about looking back at all your reading in the last 6 months, and that's really fun. I don't know if I'm going to do the tag, but I might loosely do it, but just look back on my reading so far this year. All I can remember really about it is I've read some amazing memoirs in the first couple months of the year, the first few months of the year. So that I know. But yeah, let me know what you're up to in June. Are you starting any reading projects? Like I know that I do, and some other people do. Like in the beginning of the year, you read a big book, maybe a chapter a day. Are you starting anything like that? I do have some ideas that I want to do that. I kind of miss reading a big book, a chapter a day, like I did at the beginning of last year and the beginning of this year. Those were 2 Tolstoy novels. But yeah, like big classics like Les Miserables, I'd like to read. That's the only one I can think of right now. I want to read Lolita by Nabokov. I don't think that's a large book, but I'm just remembering that I do want to get that out of the library, maybe after after E.M. Forster's A Room with a View. We'll come back to Tuki now. She's awake. Hey Took, is it time for an adventure? Is it time for us to go outside and go on an adventure after you wake up? Yeah, she's an adventure cat, and she loves to be outside, and she likes to go. It's fun being close by when she's outside looking at things, because then you can see things through her eyes, just as you do when you're outside with a little child. And it's been a lot of fun. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Let me know what you're up to in the comments. And thanks for being here. I'll see you on the next one.